That was the wrong camera. Well, welcome back, everyone, to another episode. Why do I have two things labeled main and then main cam? That's frustrating. Anyways, welcome back
Womp
to the
womp.
Dosage podcast. It is episode 113. 13. Thank you, Cody, for the host. 13 episodes now removed from the weekly dosage, and we are known as the dosage because it's not weekly. And if you know anything about
I can hear that through the Discord call.
good Lord, Lotus, making themselves known. Thank you for the host. If you're not watching
What's
this
up?
live on Twitch, that's an alert. And you can join us for our chats every time we're live right here on twitch.tv/doseofnerdacumen. I'm here live here for 113 with Lock Steady. And
Going on, guys?
we got a little video thing. Hopefully we don't get a copyright claim or flag for this. We might. We'll see. And shout out to
Very
chat.
obscured. I'm sure we'll be fine.
Trevor says sup. Cody says hi. Trevor says DCEU versus MCU, shortest podcast ever. MCU is great or not even close, he says. I mean, I guess that's the podcast, guys. Trevor spoke for us. MCU
Guess we're done.
wins. And
Have a good night, everyone.
we're out. So thanks for joining us. Just kidding. You can find us, though, on podcast platforms where we export all of these, the Dosage episodes, soon to come, music, as well as movies, and the return of the NOW podcast. If you like wrestling, check that one out. But let's talk about the topic at hand. Recently, the Snyder Cut came out, which provoked a lot of conversation amongst people about being the greatest thing ever in superhero films. And then immediately people are like, but MCU is better. And here's why. So we've talked with people and we've only
Thank you
slightly...
so much for that, man. That's bananas.
That's your voice. That's bananas. Some runny got that alert.
That is
How fitting.
bananas.
Thank you for the host.
Bananas and eggs. That sounds like a terrible combo.
You know, it might be good. Like, you generally have both of those things for breakfast.
I mean, if you like bananas, which I do not.
You don't like potassium? It's good for you. No wonder why your joints hurt.
Hey, potassium's fine. Bananas are not.
Bananas are great. They're very phallic. Anyways, welcome to the stream, everyone. We're going to talk about something we haven't talked about on our show in quite some time. I think the last time we talked about the Avengers was after we went to Endgame, where we had Caleb and Trevor, right? Or was it Kevin?
Yeah.
Was it Kevin? Or was it Trevor?
Wasn't it both? Well, it was definitely Kevin.
It was both because one was not on
Maybe
camera. Because Kevin didn't want to
yeah,
be on
Trevor was
camera.
sitting off screen.
Or was it Trevor off screen? Kevin was.
Well, no, Trevor was
on
off
camera.
screen.
Okay.
Kevin was definitely on camera because he had the gauntlet. that
That's
held his
right.
drink, remember?
That's right, yeah. So I think that's the last time we really actually took a deep dive into the cinematic universe of Marvel or superheroes in general. Since then, a couple things have come out. There's been a couple series on Disney Plus. There has been the Spider-Man film post Endgame. And then there's been a few DCEU films that have come out or been recut, if you will, again, which is the main focus of this podcast, the Snyder Cut. But let's kind of go, since we covered a lot of the MCU already, let's just kind of do a timeline comparison. And then we'll discuss the films on how they were better or worse and why we liked them and why we potentially hated them if you're Trevor. Let's take a journey back to 2013, which was already 8 years ago.
A lifetime ago at this point.
It really was. It was a long time ago. In the year 2013, we saw in the MCU both Iron Man 3 and Thor Dark World come out. And then in DCEU, we saw Man of Steel. So if immediately you want to do a comparison. Say that again?
I said the inception of the DCEU.
Yes. So the reboot, the birth of what we now know it as. Let's start with MCU first. Again, we've covered this stuff, so we'll just kind of graze the surface. Iron Man 3? Not the
It wasn't the worst
greatest.
movie in the MCU, but it wasn't
No.
great.
No, it really wasn't. It was fine, but Dark World was possibly the worst in the MCU. So at this time, you're getting what I consider a fantastic reboot of Superman. Man of Steel, I think, a little lengthy, but it was a good film. What's up, Lana?
I mean, I won't disagree with that. We're going to come to me disagreeing with something you're going to say in a minute, and we'll argue about that one, I'm sure. But
Yes.
I actually enjoyed Man of Steel overall. I feel like it had its faults in a lot of areas, but overall it was a good flick. I mean, if you want to treat each franchise wholly as standalones, I'd put it against at least half of the MCU as a watchable flick.
I mean, I think it's greater than a good chunk of the MCU. I could say it's definitely greater than both Iron Man 3 and Thor Dark World. I could say it's greater than Ant-Man. Like, Ant-Man was fine, but Man of Steel was better. I would say it's, let's see, what else? But that's going into the future. Ant-Man came out like
Way later.
Yeah, Iron Man 2 was pretty decent. There are a lot of notable things. I'd say maybe on the same playing field as Man of Steel. Incredible Hulk. Man of Steel is definitely better than Incredible Hulk.
That's an easy one, though.
The first Thor, I'd probably put them on a similar playing field. I mean, they're similar stories, right? They're both gods.
That's fair.
And then the first Avengers film, I don't think you can compare those two. The first Avengers film is better than Man of Steel. But I mean, as far as an origin story, visually and story-wise, Man of Steel nailed it. They nailed Superman on what it had potential at that time of being. And they cast the appropriate person, too, to play the part.
I would say people for most of it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean,
Most
the
of it,
overall cast, yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say are the downfalls of it then? Because, I mean, you're kind of on the fence, it seems.
I'm going to be really honest. The way so much of the film was colored was problematic for me. Superman is supposed to be a very bright and uplifting hero, and so much of the movie had that stereotypical Snyder blue. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know what you mean. We're going to talk about that with Snyder
Sure.
Cut as we get closer. Oh, boy. Buckle up for that.
Yeah.
So, comics, does it feel like this? Comics, do you like comics?
What kind of question is that? Never would have assumed something like that.
This is shocking, actually.
I'm blown away, honestly.
You know, they say you learn something new every day, and he taught me something today.
It's true.
That he likes comics. Oh, only
Hashtag
slight interest.
gravity effects.
Yeah.
Oh,
see,
okay.
Slight. That makes more sense. So, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, really, that's not my only gripe, but it's my biggest one. It's the only one that really stands out to me now, thinking back on a movie I haven't watched in a years. I really liked the casting choice for Zod. I feel like they did him dirty, but there wasn't really any other way they were going to do that, if we're being honest. I mean, superhero movies in general have this problem. I think I said it during the MCU one last time, but like, oh, it's a villain? The only way to win is to kill him.
Let's be fair, though. The only villain truly done right in both franchises, I'm speaking of, I guess, both universes, not franchises. I should clarify that, as somebody's going to put their glasses up and say, technically, it's a universe, not a franchise. A franchise is like Iron Man. There we go. I just alienated the whole community listening to us. I have a tendency
And argued
of
with
doing
yourself.
that.
That's too...
Well, it's Gravities and
one
Gravity
stone.
Well. And then there's Unwell back there. He doesn't like to be on camera. He's kind of a dick. So, anyways, the two
basis of
universes.
gravity.
Really, the only villains, and I say villains because I'm trying to think of other ones, but the first one that comes to mind is Thanos. Because you know how to make a menacing, overarching villain that is not just one and done in a film. That is a villain. That is a menacing threat to existence. Not an apocalyptic character that comes and then goes within 30 minutes. What the hell was that? So,
A promise
apocalypse.
undelivered, if I'm being honest.
So, and yeah, that's just it.
I don't know if I
Loki.
can. We'll get to that for sure, but just to be clear, I don't think we can fault that movie for that specific thing.
No.
I got a lot I
Loki.
want to say about that, but I want to set that right up front.
So, Running Egg says Loki. I don't necessarily agree that Loki's a supervillain, right? I don't even think he's truly a villain. I think he means well at heart, but he's just a selfish, jerk, with putting it lightly.
It it depends on which one we're talking about. If we're talking about the Loki we grew up with, as it were, through the universe of movies, then I would agree with that. If we're talking about Loki from the forthcoming TV series,
Yeah, no. It hasn't happened
we'll
yet.
see.
We're talking
Yeah,
about
we'll
the
see how that
timeline
goes.
of these events. Yeah, because we don't know yet.
Yeah, for sure.
Which has
Yeah,
been
I mean,
a very important value add for Disney Plus in these shows. It's added much needed depth that MCU has lacked in some of their secondary characters. So
yeah, I will agree with that completely for sure.
yeah, I don't know about Loki. I can't commit them to being a supervillain. But the common narrative with both universes are they lack good villains.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Thanos stands head and shoulders above any other villain, no question. As we go through these, obviously, we may come across other ones, but I would agree with that initial assessment for sure. Thanos is the only one they straight up did right from the jump.
Trevor says Killmonger was a good villain. I mean, yes and no, but is it a villain?
Well, not just that, but he suffered the same fate that I complained about with every other villain. Did he survive the movie or not?
It depends if they want to bring him back. Like,
Well, okay, so like you've got that whole Black Panther mysticism where through the course of that movie, we're supposed to believe that effectively T'Challa died and was brought back. So of course, there's the rumors and there is the distinct possibility they may bring Killmonger back, sure. But as things stand right now, just like we were saying with Loki just 2 seconds ago, same thing with Killmonger. Is he alive right now? The answer is no.
no. But comics
died,
makes a good point here too. Says I hate that they lack good villains because the comics are full of amazing villains. They did a lot of them dirty in the movies. And the simple principle alone is a corporate approach to it. They want money. They want everyone to leave satisfied and on a happy note. The only film they did it right and by far is possibly the best in the universe for MCU is Infinity War. That fucking ending, excuse me, perfect. Everything was horrible, tragic, and it just ends the satisfaction of the villain. Like, what? And then it picks up an Endgame right where it left off. That is how you do a story.
I feel like we might need to discuss your definition of satisfy the audience.
No, everyone wants a happy note. Like, they want to end on a happy note. You want to see the superhero win. Who doesn't?
Yeah, no. No. See, here's the thing about this. This is one of those rare occasions where I think you're in the minority, but I also agree with you. Because as you remember from the Star Wars episode, which one is my favorite Star Wars? It's Empire.
Right. I mean, where they get the upper hand and then it leaves a cliffhanger for episode 6.
But it ended on a real downer.
Well, yeah. It's one of the most tragic, and then at that time was shocking. Like, what?
You're well, and that's exactly what Infinity War
issues, delivered. Am I right?
But that's what an Infinity War delivered for the MCU. It delivered that much needed Empire ending. You had to know, especially because the next movie we were going into the Endgame, you had to know the stakes were real.
And sadly, that's when the whole franchise apexed, or the universe. It's going to be very difficult to get them back up to that level ever again.
I don't know that they can, if I'm being honest.
I don't think so.
Like, I've enjoyed the post Endgame content for certain, and I still feel some of that emotional investment for the characters that are still around, like Happy being in Far From Home, and of course Spider-Man himself continuing on. So it's not like the investment is gone or anything, but I feel like the tank is on fumes at this point.
Well, the delays have not helped. The pandemic has not helped. The series has definitely proven they can do a series better than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., in this world, which is that just retconned then? Did they just, like, that doesn't exist, does it? Or is that still kind of a thing that happened?
My understanding, based on the events of WandaVision, is that S.H.I.E.L.D. is effectively retconned.
See, and that's such a bummer.
The problem I'm running into now is that I can't find a definitive answer on if it's completely retconned or not, because there comes a point in the show, and I don't know exactly what happens because I quit watching Shield forever ago, which sort of speaks to the show itself also. But there comes a point in the show where they start like jumping through time and or dimensions, and there's a lot of people that theorize that that's the point where the Shield continuity ends.
But
And
multiverse.
whatever they do, yeah, exactly. But whatever they're doing branches off that direction, which is something we're obviously keyed up to explore.
Right.
But
Which is, it leads me to something that was released as far as information goes recently in regards to the Batman. And we'll speak on this too while we're on the topic of multiverse, so we don't forget. And I know this is kind of jumping around. That's just expect that
All
with
over the
this
map.
one. There's really no blueprint for today's show. Multiverse, right? We know it exists. We know it exists in the comics. It's how they get different variants of these characters and different versions and different universes of the same characters. 2099. I mean, like I could go on and on, like giving you details on. Probably not that deep, but you understand, like different worlds exist, even in Superman.
Yeah.
Like, right? There's Man of Steel. There's I'm drawing a blank. There are a lot of different variants of such. There's a series that I have, which are 4 different Supermans that all exist in the same, universe fighting apocalypse.
oh, you meant the comics and stuff. I thought you meant the movies.
Yeah, no, not the movies, but that's what I'm talking about too. So we'll get back into this in more detail as we get to the films, but the lack of consistency of actors, MCU has done pretty well on this.
They've
Keeping
absolutely
contracts.
nailed casting.
They've only had a couple people I think they've replaced, and that's it, or going to replace.
Don Cheadle for Terrence Howard.
Yeah, and then obviously the passing of Black Panther, but I don't think a replacement is going to happen there. Hopefully not.
Yeah, well, I mean that's still very much up in the air, but I feel like there's no good way to handle that. I mean,
No.
you don't want to kill him off screen because it's a garbage death for a great hero, but you also
How do
you
you
can't
handle
put
it?
someone else in that suit. Yeah.
I mean, Fast and Furious, you digitally impose. I mean, Star Wars, you digitally impose. These are things that exist, but at what taste? Like, those aren't things that I can make decisions on, obviously, or us as fans really probably shouldn't be up to the family and those closest to them, what's right for that person, and obviously the character. They said they aren't replacing, so there you have confirmation. But what I'm speaking of, too, is the multiverse excuse for being able to rewrite or retcon certain things. Like we spoke on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So the Batman movie that's coming out, I believe, is it this year in 2021 still? Or is it delayed out of this year? I believe it's still this year.
I thought it got a firm release date recently.
So as we know, Ben Affleck, Batfleck, end of 2021.
March 4th, 2022 is
so
the
it's-
currently listed release date. So it looks like it did get bumped.
So there you go. I know a bunch
That
of movies
sucks.
got delayed like a week or two because one other one, so they're like shifting out releases. Plus, they're trying to space it out. They want people's money out of the theaters. They don't want to put them on HBO and other things or Disney. They don't make as much money.
They want butts and seats.
They do. They want butts and seats. But with the recasting, Robert Pattinson, their explanation for this, I mean, you shake your hand a little bit. Are you not really positive on him portraying Batman or Bruce Wayne?
No, I'm actually sold on giving him a chance. I feel like the dude gets a lot of flack for having been in Twilight. I think he's a good actor in the other things that I've seen him in. What drives me nuts is people remember him solely for being in Twilight and not in Harry Potter.
I was
Come
gonna say
on now.
Harry
He
Potter.
played a much better dead guy in Harry Potter.
He did. It's true. These are
I'm
facts.
sorry, I couldn't let that one go. But no, I'm actually keen on giving him a shot. Especially people in the Bat franchise in general. Michael Keaton was a bizarre casting choice for Batman.
He
Turned
ended up
out to
being
be
good.
possibly the pinnacle of live action Batmans on the silver screen, I should say. Nobody will beat Adam West in general, in my opinion.
No.
But then Jack Nicholson as the Joker was a little bit of a really. But again, I feel like he did a great job.
It was good.
People went bonkers about how terrible the casting choice was for Heath Ledger for the Joker,
And look what
let's all
happened.
talk about how wrong we were about that.
Yeah.
So, especially in the narrow focus of the Bat franchises, I mean, we've had some bad misses. Whatever the heck they were doing with Bane was, I don't want to talk about that anymore. But Clooney and Kilmer, like they each had their merits as Wayne or Batman, but neither one of them fit both sides of the role correctly.
I don't think they fit any side of the role. I personally, like, Kilmer was okay at best, but like,
I liked Clooney as Batman and Kilmer as Bruce Wayne, and neither one of them was perfect for either role.
no.
That's my whole statement on those two.
It was
But I
bad.
do have to agree with Andrea in chat. Ben Affleck was an amazing Batman. Again, in spite of what everybody said going in, I thought Batfleck was just amazing.
Well, and he was intimidating. He's not a small guy. He was intimidating in that suit.
Well, he got
bulked up.
checked for that role.
Yeah, I enjoyed him in
But
it.
so, yeah, but to reel this all back to answer your original question, my concern is not with Pattinson being cast as the Batman. My immediate reaction to you saying that was specifically that it was recast, because my understanding was that whatever we're getting with the Batman bears no resemblance to the Batfleck movie that we're
And
not
that's
getting.
why I wanted to bring this up. A multiverse was introduced. I hate that as a cop-out because we know for fact that it's been kind of on the fence, and for a moment there, Ben Affleck wasn't going to return. So they had to move forward with something. And people are like, well, what does this mean for the franchise? It was basically, well, here's where the wall is, because half of Justice League's cast is probably not going to return, except for maybe Wonder Woman. And then we got that. But then we have these reboots or remakes of Suicide Squad with half of the people getting recast, some of them not. We have a different story, different like direction. And like,
I'm interested to see the new Suicide Squad, especially because along with watching the Snyder Cut, I finally watched the original Suicide Squad. And so like I want to see it. I want to see if this new one can be better, especially because thematically I feel like the Suicide Squad sits pretty similar to Guardians of the Galaxy.
well, I
In
mean,
terms of like
it's
the
going
weird
to
group.
James Gunn.
It-
So
but that's what I was gonna say. I feel like thematically they're not terribly dissimilar. Like ragtag
Right.
group of people come together out of nowhere, and so putting Gunn at the helm of that, I think
I think it was a good
it
choice.
is going to produce
Yeah.
a good movie.
And I think it's going to be a good film.
It
These,
definitely screws with the casting thing that you were talking about, though.
the
A lot.
continuity in casting. Like personally, I absolutely hate recasting in films. And Andrea points out, and many people have before, like if we get people who have played a character once not to play another character in superhero films, we wouldn't have Captain America. We wouldn't have so many other
Yeah.
people. But most notably, we wouldn't have Captain America, played.
Well, I think
Go ahead.
I think the distinction there is letting an actor be cast as a different character versus casting a new actor as the same character.
Deadpool, though, Ryan
You know what I
Reynolds.
Well, sure, but well, okay, but he was Deadpool both times. He was just a really crappy Deadpool, and then he was
That's what I'm
the
saying. He got an
correct
opportunity to try again. And
he got to fix it, but
Yeah.
Chris Evans, the example you just made a second ago, Chris Evans went from being the Human Torch to being Captain America,
Right.
not John Krasinski was rumored at one point to be up for the role of Captain America. So it's not like we got John Krasinski in one.
Different.
Oh, I saw some mock-ups of him like with the beard and in the costume, and I was like, I would watch that.
I
would
like
watch
him.
That.
I like him a lot, but like,
It would have been wildly different.
Yeah.
For sure. But anyway, my point is it wasn't like we got Krasinski in the first one and then Evans in the second one. Evans just got a second crack at superheroes.
Right.
As opposed to the major issue that we were talking about a second ago is a better example, even in the MCU specifically, is Terrence Howard being replaced by Don Cheadle.
right.
And now, at least in this case, we're getting an alternate universe, meaning this guy's take on the Batman is supposed to be different with Pattinson versus Batfleck, whereas Cheadle versus Howard was just like, no, that was Rhodey the whole time. Just shush. That was always
act
Rhodey.
like that didn't be a thing. Well, I mean, even with Hulk too, like,
Oh yeah, Norton to not
yeah,
Bana,
that was
Ruffalo.
right. That's still part of this cinematic universe. So we don't.
Yeah,
even
that is another recast that I always forget about.
Yeah, we don't speak on that. Like none of that. Like so that's this weird thorn in their side. And but to be fair, that was right when they were kind of like getting the wheels going. They had no clue of what it would become. No one did. Everyone still kind of had the mindset was like, yeah, we had a couple good Spider-Man films. X-Men was good, maybe not so much. the third one.
Superheroes can make money.
Right. Like,
Let's see what we can do next.
Sure. So, like, and then Fantastic Four was kind of, what the hell did I watch? Like, there were things that, like, this was a weird time. We didn't know, and then there was no way to tell that eventually we would have the highest grossing film of all time be Endgame. Well, not anymore, but at one time.
Well, yeah, for a hot minute.
Yeah, for almost, 2 years?
Wow, it was that long.
Yeah, stupid James Cameron.
Almost.
Stupid Avatar. I hate that movie.
It's okay.
It's not good.
I saw it in the theater in 3D, and I will always appreciate it for being a beautiful movie. That's what I got for you. Like, I tried watching it at home, and I was like, this is passable background noise.
It's just so generic. That's what I hated about it. Like, everyone's like, oh, it's an innovative story. No, it's not. It's Pocahontas. They even talk to a damn tree. The initials of the main character is JS. Come on, get out of here. It's the same thing.
Pocahontas meets Ferngully in space.
It's the same thing. Thieves. And the casting was fine. But we're not here to talk about Avatar.
Wrong franchise.
Wrong franchise. There's supposed to be like 3 more of those films, too. God. Anyways.
You know, I want to ask what happened with that, but then I don't think I want the answer.
I don't even want to know.
So anyway, we were talking about Pattinson's Batman spinning off their multiverse.
So the multiverse, like I was going to say, is kind of a cop-out and just their way to amend the tentative contracts for the people playing parts in these films in this franchise. With the recent, I guess you would call it success, or at least the verbal success and critical score of Snyder Cut of Justice League, it might be lucrative to have people come back with bigger contracts, and with not Joss Whedon, directing it, because there's been a lot of information coming out about that as well. That's another debatable, not even really debatable, another topic for another show, maybe not our show, but that is a thing that exists out there. Look it up if you're curious to learn more. So, I mean, could these actors come back? Yeah, it sucks, but hey, I mean, Hollywood, full of just POSs, man. It really is.
Art from artist. That's what I got to keep reminding myself. I'm not a bad person for enjoying the stuff that he made, as long as I recognize that he is a bad person.
Yeah, and I mean, that's fair to have that, I guess. But anyways, that's another time.
There's a difference between historically enjoying it and supporting it in the future also. I want to clarify that.
Right. I feel like that's a different soapbox for a different whole political discussion. And that's not what we're doing.
Different show, different time.
That's not what we're doing
No.
here. But anyways, the one thing that I was kind of hoping out of the reveals, especially the color palette being used, I want Batman Beyond. Give me a Batman Beyond movie.
Yes, please.
Let me recognize chat here. I saw you pointing down. Batman Beyond would have been, okay, Thunder, you read my mind, or I read yours, or I saw that. Batman Beyond would have been better. Yes, budget's probably Avatar Multiverse, because the Snyderverse succeeding, they want Batflip. That's what I mean, yes. So, and then again, Affleck and Michael Keaton were already booked to be Batman the Flash movie. So, I mean, these crossovers in the multiverse, like, while intriguing, I don't necessarily, like, I don't know. And Trevor, are you Captain Smiles now? What's going on here?
Yes, he knows what Batman Beyond
Get out
is.
Of here. One of the greatest cartoons of the 90s. Come on. Get out of here. Batman Beyond with Michael Keaton as Bruce. Yes, that would be a good thing. That's a good thing.
You know what makes me sad about your very obvious semi-stated aversion to the multiverse idea is that I think arguably, while Marvel's multiverse is the more widely known and recognized, I feel like in a lot of cases DC's is better, because most of the time when they did their multiverse stuff, they were willing to take bigger chances. It wasn't just Batman but in Metropolis. I mean, they did do that, but it was Batman but he was a pirate. You know what I mean? Like, some of those were what ifs. They weren't really canon, but like some of them were
what if is trademarked by Marvel though.
No. What is it? I can't remember what the DC one is called, but they have their own what if.
Yeah.
What if was Marvel and DC had their own thing, and I honestly can't remember what it's called. But anyway, the point was Elseworlds. Thank you, Redbeard.
So, like, I get it.
But those are cool, but like...
And it's fine. Like, there's things that work in comics that just don't work on the silver screen. And, like, that is...
It depends on whether you're building a franchise off it, I feel.
Well, yes. And, here's my personal bias. I'm going to clear the air right now. I favor Batman over any of these characters. Batman is my favorite, but that doesn't mean I favor DC. I favor Batman. I find him the most intriguing, character. Just the most grounded character, right? He doesn't have superpowers. So I feel, especially the Dark Knight trilogy, I feel he's more realistic and more fun to watch. It's not as fantastical, I guess is a way to describe it.
That really brings me to something I want to talk about in the Snyder Cut. I can wait, but I really want to talk about something that made me laugh hysterically.
All right, we'll get there. We're going to rush through some of the other stuff so we can discuss the main topic, which is the Snyder Cut. DC movies are now doing what DC Comics does. Do you want it to be in continuity? Then it is. If you don't, it doesn't. Don't worry.
The gift of Jericho.
Yellow. Thanks for the sub.
Drink it in,
Seth
man.
is back. He's a rich playboy philanthropist. I can't talk.
Phlebotomist?
He's a phlebotomist. Bluetooth headset. Batman has the best world with the best villains. Yeah. Honestly, thanks for the host, DK. And it most honestly, the thing that I read the most comics on growing up was just Batman. So it's what I was exposed to the most is probably why I favor it too. So a lot of times is what you rooted in. Are you a Nintendo guy or are you a Sega guy kind of thing, I read more DC stuff than I did Marvel back then.
Yeah.
So let's continue on the journey. 2014, we didn't have a single DC film, but we had in the MCU The Winter Soldier, which is one of the greatest MCU films. Amazing Spider-Man 2, because Sony still had the rights to Spider-Man. It was a film mixed, but we're not going to speak on that because that's not the MCU, so I need to stay on track here. Guardians of the Galaxy, which was my favorite for the longest time in the MCU, which was then replaced by Infinity War. Yeah, 2014.
Was that really 2014?
Yes, 2014, Guardians of the Galaxy. I still remember Andrew Lana getting me the the steel book that looked like a cassette. Awesome mixed volume.
Nice.
So that was exclusive to Best Buy. Yeah, I was pretty stoked. And like I said, that was my favorite until Infinity War. I really enjoyed. And it's a toss-up between Infinity War and Endgame. And
it was also a big gamble. I know you're looking up the next thing, so I'm going to say a couple things real quick.
Yep.
Guardians was a weird gamble for them because it's a very unknown property for most people. And frankly, I went to see it solely on the goodwill earned by Iron Man for me, basically. I mean, the other MCU movies were good up to that point too, don't get me wrong, but Iron Man had built me enough goodwill to go, maybe I'll see a movie about a talking raccoon.
I think for me,
totally blown away by how good it was.
It was the casting was what found me intrigued. I was a fan of Chris Pratt from his work on God, what the hell's the name of that show?
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec. Thank you. You cut out when you said that. So yes, I enjoyed that.
Of course, I did.
It was actually Andrew Lana that turned me onto that show as well. So I ended up fancying him for a while. He's kind of, anyways. He's so the soundtrack too. The story is so heartbreaking, but also fun, and it's that space opera kind of Star Wars. It's got that same vibe as Firefly and which people adore. Things like that. So it was right up my alley of sci-fi, which I generally enjoy the most outside of horror. So, and yes, the soundtrack, Groot and Rocket, they were great. But it was just a fun movie. It was a break from what was happening and eventually how they end up meeting up and everything comes together. It's good. Lana says I legit went into Guardians expecting to be terrible. Obviously incorrect. Yeah, she was hesitant on going to see that one too. She's like, what the hell is this? How many more of these Marvel movies are coming out? 20 of them later.
I'm happy to admit I was in the same boat. I went in expecting something terrible or passably watchable at best, and it wound up being one of my favorites. Still, it's in my top 5.
It's just so good. So good.
It
so
really is.
2015 then showed up. No DC films again. So great start to your universe, DC. Way to really catch up to MCU. But in 2015, we had Avengers Age of Ultron, Ant-Man. Like I said, Ant-Man is good. It's not my favorite. Age of Ultron is possibly it's more important now if you haven't seen WandaVision, which added the much needed depth to a lot of things for that film for what it lacked. But it was the common like second act of a story arc for the Avengers films. I don't want to say it fell flat because it's still
the weakest one.
It is. It's still good, but it's not the best. And sadly, it makes it the worst of the Avengers movies. But don't get me wrong.
Of the main Avengers films, it's the worst. But that's like, it's the worst chicken sandwich. I mean, a chicken sandwich is good. You know what I mean?
It's all right. You need some mayo on it, but you know.
Yeah, well, and Ultron needed mayo, and this is getting weird, so let's move on.
You know my favorite thing, though, about that film? I got to highlight it because I just loved it so much. The advertisements. And since it's under the Disney umbrella, they got to use Pinocchio, the theme.
Nice.
Ain't got no strings on me.
That is a good.
So horrifying.
It really was. It was very, very unsettling, especially with like the mangled robot saying it. Another really cool moment that I think gets often overlooked by people is specifically Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch. Like, I'm a guy with a bow and arrow fighting robots in the sky. Nothing makes sense. Or whatever the whole line was. I feel like that's such a great line.
It was just so problematic, too, of how large the ensemble cast was.
Yeah, the movie sagged under the weight of everyone in it, for sure.
Like, yeah. I don't know. We're not specifically reviewing that. I'm just trying to reminisce. 2016 showed up, and... For one, Deadpool happened, but we're not talking about that. But damn, that movie is still good. 2016, like, what a fitting time period, too. Civil unrest. There was a lot of problems in the United States on a political level. There are a lot of things happening that were like, that can't be a thing that happens. Ugh. So, how fitting Captain America's Civil War comes out. And it's the year of fighting amongst each other. Batman vs. Superman, The Dawn of Justice also releases in 2016. Wow. Also to mention, we'll get to it too, Doctor Strange and Suicide Squad, which we talked about a little bit. But let's talk about Civil War, comparing it to BVS, because I've been waiting for this moment to divulge deeper into your disdain for BVS. Let me know why you hate it. Let's just let it all out. I need to hear this.
It was a wild mess start to finish, and I absolutely abhor with every fiber of my being what they did to Doomsday.
Tell me.
Those are my two those are my two biggest complaints, is that I felt like the movie was all over the frickin' place because it was very glaringly apparent that they were looking at Civil War and going, well, crap, they've already had the ensemble move to the point that they're breaking up the ensemble. We need to get it in gear. And so suddenly we have Wonder Woman. Surprise! Like, that was weird and off-putting. That she really just felt shoved in the movie. I cannot stress enough how much I fucking hated what they did with Doomsday. And it drives me bonkers that Lex Luthor was the Riddler.
Did I say Apocalypse earlier? I meant Doomsday. Thank you for correcting that. Because there are people commenting now, the few people that are probably listening back in the comments section that didn't correct me, or did and we missed it. You recognize the appropriate villain, whereas I did not. So thank you. That was an error on my part.
I didn't recognize it because I thought you were making a joke about Snyder Cut.
Nope. Made the mistake and confusion. That happens when there's a lot of content to cover and remember. Without notes, which is unlike and uncharacteristic of myself. I'm going in blind, besides Wikipedia for the dates here. Off to my
I gotta be honest, I'm enjoying this trap though. This is good content. I like you off your feet. You gotta think more about what you're saying.
I don't like that. It's ill-prepared.
It's not a list. You just gotta be honest. From the heart. And from my heart, Doomsday, he was terrible. But no, seriously, Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor doesn't bother me now, and we'll come to that. But he bothered me immensely then, because it really felt like they wanted the Riddler and Lex Luthor and decided, screw it, we'll have both.
Yeah, his commitment to what we know as that character was not great, but if you separate and just take your knowledge of the understanding of that character and just watch his corporate villainous kind of like menacing characteristic, he portrays that well. Like you genuinely dislike him, like almost to the point of like you hate this person, you wish horrible things. Like he plays, and this is huge for him too. If you know his resume of work, this is very unlike him. So like
way out of his norm.
This is flexing his acting skills, and
I'll give him props for that. This is another one of those cases where I feel like it's not the actor or necessarily even the character, but the writing, I think, failed Eisenberg more than anything else in this case. And I straight up almost said Heisenberg. But no, I sincerely feel like the writing failed him.
You're breaking
terribly.
Bad.
Am I?
No, that was
what is
Heisenberg breaking.
Oh. Okay.
It's not in my notes, so
I messed that one up. But Superman, we gotta cook. But yeah, no. So I didn't like the fact that Wonder Woman felt shoehorned in there. I felt like Batman started really strong in the movie as like being a great example of what we should expect from Batfleck.
How do you know that name? Sorry.
It got really off the wall as the movie carried on. That warehouse scene was phenomenal. That was so good.
Detroit, you know that, right?
I did.
Okay.
And I'm super proud of that because it was awesome. But yeah, so Batfleck in the beginning of BVS was great. And then like all of a sudden he's just like, yeah, let me just rock this gun real fast. Like it's totally normal. And it just like, it felt like we just went way off and I'm like, okay, that's the Batman we're going with. But then he like veered real hard back the other direction again, where he was on the high and mighty train. And like, that's a normal thing for Batman, but like, you can't be the high moral ground Batman and be all about using guns at the same time.
So this is a late lifetime Batman. This is not a young Bruce Wayne. This is a seasoned, we've been through some stuff Batman.
Yeah, and I was honestly expecting to get out of that Dark Knight Returns level Batman based on the aesthetics of the costume.
It's beyond that.
The brutality.
Unintended.
But so that's what I went in expecting, and then we got that warehouse scene, and I was like, I'm on board with this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but one of the major tenets of that Batman was that he put down the cape and cowl because gun. Like, and that's part of Batman Beyond as well. He was like, oh crap, I used a gun. Can't be Batman anymore.
Yeah, it's against his moral code. And because obviously for those that don't know the origin story of Batman, his parents were gunned down in front of him in an alley after a theater showing.
But yeah, so to round out my complaints, Wonder Woman was shoved in, Batman was all over the map, and why did you say that name is possibly the dumbest line in any superhero movie to date. And I'm including both sides of the fence here. It's terrible. That whole scene is awful.
I mean, it's forced narrative to get to common points. Like, here's the thing with these films though, like none of the dialogue is like life altering or like impressive. No. And this goes for the MCU as well. Like,
most of it's not Shakespeare.
No, we're not watching these movies for the dialogue. We're watching it so Superman can destroy the Batmobile. That was phenomenal. Come on. And then him just floating in the rain at night, and then Batman just staring back menacingly and, tell me, do you bleed? And then just that scene alone. Come on. How are you not so excited about that?
See, that's the thing that killed me. This is one of the things that I hated about Man of Steel, but enjoyed about Batman vs. Superman. Man of Steel, very dark, dour movie when it shouldn't have been. Batman vs. Superman, absolutely. Those sequences in the middle of the night. I mean, obviously you got Batman, so you're going to spend a lot of time in the dark. That's a given.
And Gotham looked amazing.
Yes, it did. It absolutely did. Visually, the movie was good.
Mm-hmm.
My problem was that the narrative was wacky.
I'm going to go back and say, I'm sorry, I don't agree on the introduction of Wonder Woman. If you're watching the other Wonder Woman films and then recognizing why she is where she's at and why she appeared when she did, she was always there. She was always watching.
Well, sure.
She got involved when she did because she had to.
cards on the table. I have not seen 1984 yet. I've accidentally been putting it off, but I definitely saw the original one.
It's good. It's not like go watch.
We're
it
not
right
writing
now.
home about it.
Yeah,
Sure.
Don't like get off the stream and go watch it. Kind of like you're missing out. It was good, but it's fine. It exists. It's good.
Well, but that's my point. Is how far away were we from Wonder Woman at that point? 3 years?
1 year.
Really?
It was literally setting
2017?
up. Yeah, it was literally setting up. That's why the movie 2 exists, because it was establishing the setup for Justice League.
Well, I knew that, but for some reason, I don't know why I was thinking it was 2018, 2019 before Wonder Woman and then Justice League right after it.
No.
Anyway, well, the point was, they gave us the payoff to something that we hadn't had the setup for yet.
Well, right, but this is why a lot of the critics initially, they're doing a reverse formula to what MCU established. But like, I think their approach, while wildly different, maybe not the best way in retrospect to do it. Why does there have to be a blueprint for it, kind of thing, for MCU and DCEU? Like, we already know they're not following the same formula, but like their setup was not horrible, and it makes sense on why they've released in the order they have now, besides a few things here and there.
I mean, to some degree, sure. And I feel like my ability to enjoy BVS is going to be greatly enhanced coming out of the Snyder Cut. But
it's a better movie than the Snyder Cut.
Going into Dawn of Justice, I expected more than I got. I think is the other problem. Is Man of Steel set a bar, and in my personal opinion, Dawn of Justice didn't even meet it. And a part of it was the non-cohesive narrative, in my opinion.
Now, and here's the problematic thing, and I don't want to contradict myself on stances, but I may here with this statement. Did you watch the extended version, or did you watch the theatrical?
I actually don't remember at this point.
Okay.
But I believe I watched the theatrical cut.
Not that it makes a super difference, and I doubt it'll sway you. I think
super
that
difference.
I think it adds a little, I guess, enough to improve it maybe for you. I appreciated it. So, but I mean, it just extends. Obviously, extended cut extends things. And Extends is also a product we're not sponsored by, so I'm not going to keep saying that. If you want to sponsor, no, we're not pipping that here.
One way to get a sponsor.
DNA Extends. Yikes. Can we get our logo on condoms?
I mean, we could theoretically get our logo on anything, really.
Awkward silence for the podcast listeners to really let that sink in.
Insert some cricket noises.
So here's a note too. The extended version was R-rated because it added a little bit more violence to it, and I think there was actually.
I had to have seen the theatrical cut then.
Yeah, because it was R-rated. But I mean, they wanted the PG-13 because obviously butts and seats, right? That's what it's all about, butts and seats. And at that time, the only other R-rated movie was Deadpool that same year. So.
Deadpool was after though, wasn't it?
I don't know. I don't know the specific date. It just gives me the year on this wiki.
All right. Well, say whatever you're going to say. I'll go look it up.
So I'm saying that, like, they I don't think, like I said, it's not going to change people's opinions. The extended version adds maybe potentially more clarity to things, but I don't think it's going to, like, be a game changer for anyone. Like, should they see that over the other? It's not like the vastly different Snyder Cut and Justice League.
Oh no, it was post. Huh.
So let's continue on. In 2016, we mentioned Suicide Squad. A lot of things we already talked about. That's getting a remake or reimagining. Like, what do you call that? Is it a reboot, a remake?
I don't know. I think technically you have to call this a reboot because we're recasting and effectively retelling an origin story, is my understanding.
Right. But what are they also doing then with the Harley Quinn film?
Is that even canon?
But that's what I'm saying. It's so confusing. And that was actually a really good film.
I enjoyed that one thoroughly.
It was fun. It's a fun movie. Very colorful.
People
I like
pooped on that movie. I was very unhappy with that.
Which I don't understand. Well, I do understand. I'm not going to stand on that soapbox here, but people like to hate women-led casts.
Ooh, shots fired. No, my only beef with Harley Quinn, my only major beef with Birds of Prey, and the Glorious Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, I think was the full title. So my 1.5 beefs, because that's a mouthful.
That's what she said.
Hey, same
Which
problem.
they dropped that name, by the way. I got Birds of Prey.
Yeah. But I have the same problem with that I have with all of the rest of these movies. They made Black Mask into a very intimidating and well put together villain, and then murdered him.
Yeah, he was really good. Yeah, he was a good villain. Like, holy crap, like another actor that had like unexpected chops as far as a character portrayal. Like, good God, how do you go from Star Wars to this? Like, that is wow.
I'm gonna try to make myself look smart,
but
it's gonna fail because it's taking too long.
Oh.
Ooh, Black Mask in that movie. Oh, it was Ewan McGregor. That's what it was. That's why I feel dumb.
Star Wars.
There's a lot of people in Star Wars, man. Come
on.
on.
I thought you. Okay. Not picking up what I put down. That's fine.
But no.
All right. But
he was good.
Let's talk about Doctor Strange ending out 2016 then for the MCU. I mean, like I said, we already talked about a lot of the MCU on a previous podcast. I don't know if we need to dive too deep into Doctor Strange, especially when it's kind of for me.
I enjoy it. I feel like it's got a really great place in the cinematic universe. Obviously, it's very pivotal for where we're heading in the next phase, but I don't think there's really a ton to say about it. Almost exactly what you would have expected from Doctor Strange.
Yeah, like, it's fine. It exists because it needs to, and that's my take on it. It was good. It's just it's a movie.
I had my qualms with it. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't rate it terribly high. I wouldn't put it next to Dark World or Hulk, but
oh no, it's not that bad. But 2017 showed up. We had Wonder Woman and Justice League, which would be obviously the main topic here. And then we also, on the other side, had Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, and Thor Ragnarok. Talk about MCU having an incredible year. All three of those,
knocking it out of the park.
They really did. And Wonder Woman was fantastic too. And I'm going to say it now, Justice League in 2017 was better than the Snyder Cut. I'm going to just throw that out there.
I can't agree with you. I can't do it.
That's fine. You don't need to. That's why we're here. That's why we're doing this.
I think my biggest beef with the Snyder Cut that the 2017 one beats it on was not making my butt numb. I sat there for 4 hours. I watched the whole Snyder Cut all the way through.
Yeah, we did too. All 4 hours.
So long.
An unnecessary 4 hours of an emo movie over 10% in slow motion. Which was like boringly
do we want
colored.
Right into Snyder Cut right now?
Let's do it because we already know the rest. We talked about the rest. We talked about Black Panther. We touched on all these things. Really, we don't need to dive into Aquaman because that movie was not good.
I didn't even watch it.
You're not missing anything. Aquaman.
I will say
Shazam.
Wonder Woman set a bar, and so did Shazam. Those were both phenomenal films.
Joker, if that's considered DCEU.
Oh,
that's a good movie too.
I don't think that's canon to the DCEU, but it's so good.
It's really good too. Birds of Prey we spoke on. Wonder Woman 84 you haven't seen yet. We don't know about Suicide Squad. So yes, let's talk about Snyder Cut. We're here. We're now. And yes, 4 hours of daddy issues, says Cody. And my God, the first 2 or 3 hours of it, just, can you add color, please? And I get it was supposed to be the death of Superman, the brooding just lack of life, and this, city of Metropolis, and everything is just horrible and bleak and emo and My Chemical Romance, and like, God, it was an unnecessary cut, and it was too long. It flowed like a miniseries, and it should have been a miniseries. I feel like,
well, technically it was.
Oh, right. It was separated into 6 parts, which could have been a miniseries of things.
Sure. So, I mean, I'm willing to cut it a little bit of slack on the length specifically for that reason, because it was presented in chapters. So you could hit a chapter and effectively walk away if you needed to, as if it was the end of an episode. Where I will not cut it slack on the length was the gratuitous overuse of slow-mo sequencing. That movie could have knocked at least a half an hour off its runtime if everybody had not had some sort of required 5 minutes of slow-mo per character.
The whole opening sequence was like 10 minutes of slow-mo. What the hell was that? Like, we get it. He yelled. We're going to see it enter every freaking city and town in the world?
Well, they had to get 5 minutes. They had to get Superman's requisite 5 minutes of slow-mo in right off the bat because he was going to spend the next couple chapters dead.
I liked the beginning of the original cut, the CG'd removal of the mustache and like the little like phone interview thing. Like I'm sorry. Like the Whedon cut is just more like the MCU. It's fun. It's got a variety. The fact that they cut anything fun with the Justice League, I get like this is a dire event, but like,
well, not everything.
Everything was so bleak and bland.
Most things, yes. There was still a little bit of comedy. The Flash's entire intro sequence was comedy,
but it was so jarring in the Snyder cut. Like it didn't fit at all. Like everything
because
was
it was very bright and very light and very comedic, and then it immediately went back to everybody's sad.
Right. Whereas the Whedon cut,
it was wildly out of place.
It flowed better. It had like from sequence to sequence, things made sense for the most part.
My problem though with the comparison there is that I'll take it being a little bit jarring to hate the Flash less, which is what I got. Ezra Miller as Barry Allen is awful for the front half of the Snyder cut and all of the Whedon cut. I loathe Ezra Miller's Barry Allen in those circumstances. What they were able to do with him in the extra stuff that they put in the Snyder cut made the character far less aggravating, but I still don't feel like he's Barry Allen. They could have made him one of the other Flashes, and I would not care nearly as much, but they gave us this goofy weirdo in the Whedon cut in the midst of Grant Gustin absolutely nailing it as Barry Allen on TV. You literally put those two next to each other, and I'm supposed to give a crap about Ezra Miller being that weird little kid on the screen?
In a vacuum, yes. You take that out of the mix because it's unfortunate. It's fortunate, but unfortunate at the same time that it exists. You take that out and you have it as a vacuum. He's a fantastic character. He's likable. He's relatable. Like, he's the only one out of anyone that feels humanized and grounded, even with his predicaments.
Sure, but again, like, not as Barry Allen. You've got Batman, you have a handful of people that have been Batman. Superman, you have Superman that's been Superman. Wonder Woman is Wonder Woman. Aquaman is Aquaman. The Flash, there's been like 15 of them. Just like Green Lantern, you have this huge cast of various different versions of the character that have all been in the Justice League. You could have just picked any of the other ones.
And I mean, we could swap pieces all day until we have the proper formula, who is best as what, and make a film out of it. But I'm saying, I don't know if that's what I'm debating here.
Well, I'm just saying specifically we're talking about the Flash, and like I agree with you, it was very jarring to have that sequence, especially juxtaposed by two very dark sequences still early in the movie like that. It would be like we've got in the background, we've got the Shazam trailer. It'd be like if Shazam just popped in being himself anywhere in this movie. It would have been wildly out of place. And so I completely agree with that. It was very jarring and it was very weird. But I mean, it went to, I think, making the character a little bit more relatable, even if it was wacky and weird. But it was the later sequences when it was still narratively within the context of everything else. Like especially during the last fight when he was running around to build up the charge to hit Cyborg, and like he gets shot and he was talking to himself, and I'm like, this is a Barry Allen I get.
Well, they changed
But
that
we did
too.
not get that in Whedon.
Well, that's not true. He was timid. He was apprehensive about combat. They cut all that out in the Snyder Cut. One of the first.
Well, yeah. Well, not all of it, but most of it.
The whole first encounter with Steppenwolf in the well sequence, that is his part is completely altered.
Except for he still does the thing where he runs around and dinks the sword.
I'm saying in regards to has apprehension to any combat.
Yeah,
that's gone. That's completely wiped out.
We got one specific sequence that was still in that vein, but all of the stuff that was in the Whedon cut was replaced with him at the beginning being like, guys, this isn't together, and like running around trying not to get caught in the fight at first. But then like once he got in it, he was in it. You know? But that brings me to the one thing that I really wanted to point out about the Snyder cut that I absolutely laughed my butt off at was all of the Justice League walking up the stairs. Cyborg can fly. Wonder Woman has Superman level jumping over buildings. The Flash can literally run up the wall. Batman has a freaking
grapple gun.
Mm-hmm. Let's just walk up the stairs. Because Batman's knees are bad, I guess. I don't know. It was, but again, it wildly out of place. I found it to be a very hilarious comedic moment watching them all trudge up the stairs together.
They did fix one thing from the Whedon version that I was happy with. The stupid smile at the ending sequence when they're fighting Steppenwolf, because that was really the only villain that existed in the Whedon version, because that's wildly different. Well, we should have prefaced with spoilers. Sorry, guys. Spoilers.
Whoops.
Yikes. The stupid smile from Batman when Superman shows up in the Whedon cut. I don't know if you remember it, but they're all like, everyone's beaten down, and then Superman shows up. Batman's like, oh, yay! Like, oh, God, don't do that. Don't do that, Batman. Why? And like, I swear, like, it was a split second when you watch it back, but it felt like 4 minutes they just sat on his smirk when Superman showed up. And it's like,
aha, you're in it now, Steppenwolf.
Oh, my God.
I mean,
then the introduction of in the Snyder Cut, the not new, but new villain, the higher villain than Steppenwolf, the greater threat, which again is all concluded in one single film, in one or two sequences.
Two villains though.
I mean, yeah, but I mean they look the same. And then why did you have to re-armor like Steppenwolf? Was it really that bad?
This is a point you and I are 100% on the same page on, to be honest with you. The entire time Sarah and I were watching it, we're like, I hate the new armor. Like, I get it. It was meant to make him look more intimidating, and
but it like breathes and
sometimes
does
it did.
It's like a shader effect in Destiny that you unlock. You know?
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
At one point, he's walking by and he's got the little armor tail, and she's like, does he have a tail? I was like, well, I mean, he doesn't, but yes.
Yeah. And the fact
that was terrible, and I hated it.
And then they had to collect things. It was like the Avengers and the Infinity Stones, and it was like, is this a video game? Why do we always have to collect things and then fight the bad boss, like the final boss at the end? Like, that's the best narrative we got for all these all the time? There's not other things we can do with this?
MacGuffins, man.
But no.
It's the trope. It's not a trope, it's the trope.
But this is why, like, we can't have good superhero movies. We have, but you know what I'm saying? Like, why people are hesitant, why there can't be good video game movies, is because they fit that narrative. Like, it's just...
Oh, yeah.
But
video games are notorious for it in a play style, and so the assumption absolutely is going to be that we're going to get saddled with it in a film, too. Can you imagine a Resident Evil picking up potted herbs so that you don't die when the dogs bite you?
And then your supporting actress is just, here, take this. Take it. Take it. It's like my Resident Evil playthrough that I did. It's every friggin' minute, take this.
Yeah.
Take it. Okay. Like, God, your dialogue is atrocious.
We're gonna tan now. Just spritz me real quick.
And to be fair, I enjoyed every Resident Evil movie, so I'm going to put that out there. They were all good. I don't care what you say.
Well, I don't really remember the movies actually banking on that, though. Like, I don't remember Mila Jovovich ever running down a hallway and going, a green plant. You know what I mean?
You sure? I mean, there were cheesy stuff in those movies, but they were good.
Oh, for sure. What was I going to say, though? No, I hated Steppenwolf's armor. That's 100% true. Oh, the fetch quest thing. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
That made me even more angry because it was just another one of those moments where it's like you could have had this really well thought out thing, and then we just threw it out the window. Because the Amazons built this crazy temple where they could sacrifice themselves to crash the temple into the water to make sure that nobody got their box. The Atlanteans had this crazy underwater temple that had all these security features, and both of them had guards everywhere.
And
the humans were just
so
like,
much of the battles from
oh yeah, for the better overall. I think I think the action Snyder cut were very well done, but then we get to the men, and they're like, we're gonna put the box in another box, and then we're gonna bury that box.
And what was it, Lord of the Rings? Where did they get those shots from?
Like just 3 feet deep in the middle of a walkway in the woods in a box. That's what you got.
I saw Gandalf. He was there.
He was in the background. He was just hanging out.
It was weird. And one of the other sequences too, speaking of changes and things, the exchange where Bruce Wayne is speaking with Aquaman or discovering who the Aquaman is in the bar.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't they have him like float off like he did like Flipper again? Remember in the Joss Whedon cut, like he floated out through the water like Flipper? Like I swear they hit him that like he did that. But like
at least him disappearing peacefully in the puddle in that moment was better when they cut back to him saving the guy on the boat and then had him standing at the end of the dock for 2 full minutes in slow-mo ocean spray.
And the song, the weird song. Like, what was that all about?
Are you talking about with Wonder Woman, where every time she did anything, it played a little bit of her theme?
No. When Aquaman was at the waterfront, when they were saying him off.
Yeah.
Like, that went on for like 20 minutes. Like, okay.
That was very bizarre.
Get to the next scene. Like, I don't care.
No, but the whole second sequence with Aquaman going back into the water bothered me. For starters, what were you doing out in the middle of the ocean in a tank top? Why is your soaking wet tank top something you have to take off to get back in the ocean? And why are we just standing here while you get spritzed? Like, those were nothing but fan service shots. And I get, like, that happens. Don't get me wrong. But, like, holy crap.
Is it weird having on the other side of things for once?
No, it was in slow-mo the whole time.
Is it the awkward Chris Pratt sequence when he has to take his shirt off and Guardians in the jail?
And he's just orange for no reason.
Yeah, it exists on both sides, more on one side than the other, but it exists.
Oh, for sure. And I had no problem with the gratuitous Pratt service either on paper. Like, I thought that was a perfectly fine moment to have in the film. You play both sides of the aisle. Everybody's happy. We move on with our lives. I mean, nobody's happy, but you know what I mean.
No, it's all unnecessary. It really is on both sides of it.
But we have to be fair. But anyway, that's a thing for another time. But no, my problem was that, like, they started the slow-mo just as he started pulling the shirt off, and then we got like 30 seconds of his back as he just in the face, and I'm like,
I mean, when I take mine off, it's in slow-mo too, because I'm trying to get it around my belly. And then it's through my neck rolls like this, and then it's off.
You get stuck in the elbow.
Yeah. How you doing, Lana?
I feel you.
How you doing? That's why the light switch was invented. Awkward silence to follow that one. Chat says, let's catch up with them. They've been talking. Man, that box to myself smashed with a hammer. Why did it have to take his shirt off, especially every time he comes back? He's fully clothed again. What do you guys mean? Whenever you guys enter the water, beautiful women don't sing at you. I generally no. They yell at me to go away.
Out of here.
Cody says we need to know why he needed to take his shirt off. We all wanted to see it. Oh, we do know why. So your problem with the complaint about killing villains, The Dark Knight, they let the Joker live. Yeah, but I mean, yeah. The idea
because they had plans to bring him back. The idea was great.
Yeah, he was supposed to be in Dark Knight Rises, but that's another unfortunate. So yeah, I don't know. For me personally, I'm glad that Snyder got to complete his vision of the film, because for those that don't know the story, he had to step away and Whedon took over the reins of it. And the reins done by Whedon, it is a good film. It really is. I enjoyed it more because it fits more my style of the beats that I'm looking for. But does it fit the universe that's being crafted? If you look at the other films, the Snyder Cut fits better than the Whedon version does. But for my taste and how I want a not 4-hour film, because really you could have told this story in less than 4 hours. You really could have. I liked the style of, all right, here's some moments of despair. Here's some moments of happiness. Here's some, like, there's ways that both of them could have come together and made a better film than each of them did too. Because there are things that are better in both of them. I think if you were to somehow do a fan cut of it, and we all say this too, we could do a better movie, and that's a wrestling trope right there. We could book the show better. No, you can't. You've never had the pressure to do so you don't even know what it's like. Nor do I, but just saying. Really, like, I don't know. The Snyder Cut exists because it should. I'm glad he got to complete it. If you don't know the story, look it up. I'm not going to dive too deep into personal stuff like that because it is quite tragic. But he got to complete his cut. The one thing that I don't like, though, the fact that, I don't know if he said it or someone said it, that he has never seen the Whedon cut. Like, that bothers me. Like, why would you not watch it?
Yeah, at the very least. Yeah, at the very least, see what he did. Maybe he did something that you would have liked if you'd seen it. You don't have to throw everything away or retouch it. Because that was, I don't remember where I read it, but I saw it somewhere where somebody pointed out that while they did reuse stuff from the Whedon cut, and that stuff may have even been reused from whatever Snyder had done before he stepped away. I don't know. But even in the places where they did keep stuff that was in the Whedon cut, in the Snyder cut, it was touched somehow. A different background, different armor on Steppenwolf, different background music.
Coloring or something. Yeah, the music is wildly different. They changed the score dramatically.
So even where it's the same, it's still different. And so, like, at least sit down and see what the guy did.
And I think in all due respect for a person that, like, took over and helped you out, like, imagine just, well, can't finish the movie now. Like, sure, Snyder would have gone on and done other things and been fine, but, like... And I know this is a lot of online communities, and there's a lot of like Xbox, PlayStation type mentality between the MCU and DCEU. Like, we can't enjoy both. There's a lot of flip-flopping I've seen over the years too from other communities I follow online, and a lot of the immediate responses that the people that I'm directly connected with, and then some extended like online writers, journalists, if you will. I think that's what they're called, right? Immediately like, Whedon's film is trash. This is just gold. Like, they're just immediately painting this as being the best thing ever. And I don't know if it's just gut reaction where I'm like, I can't agree there. Is it because I don't want to be on the bandwagon? Possibly.
Because got to be on the outside.
Right. It's cooler to not be on the... Like, I don't know. But in all reality, I was very excited to see this cut because... there is more content, right? That has its benefits, but it doesn't need to be. It's a thing exists that was unnecessary or really unneeded. So, like, I'm at these weird, like, I like it, but I don't. But I like it, like, I'm torn is really the best way to describe my feelings on the Snyder Cut. I'm torn.
I think if we have to take it as the final word on the Justice League film, be it this is the new continuity or not. No, sorry. Let me start over. I think if we have to take it as the final word on Snyder's DCEU, then it exists in a way that it needed to exist. Specifically because there were all these cues and setups that we were given in the Snyder Cut that very obviously are meant to lead into bigger and other things in future installments that in all likelihood we're not going to get.
And that's the other
if
problem,
that's the
too.
case, yeah, if that's the case, then I'm fine with this movie as it is. 4 hours is a long time, but it gave me a lot of stuff that we were never going to see otherwise.
Yeah.
and I appreciate that. But there's that huge growing hashtag restore the Snyderverse going on, and I don't realistically expect it to happen. But if it does, then this is unnecessarily long at that point.
So I'm glad you brought that up because that was one of the two things I wanted to basically close with on this topic as a whole, of my apprehension about this film and it doing mildly well or well enough for comic book film fans to ignite a thing like that trending. Because in this past month, I have seen two things, and this was my immediate reaction, that I don't want to happen. I don't like revisionist history. I don't like things like 10th anniversary of Scott Pilgrim. We're going to add more scenes and a new cut of it. David Ayer, can we get the Suicide Squad that we deserve? Suicide Squad cut that we deserved? Because there was a lot left on the editing floor with mostly Leto's performances, from my understanding. While yes, I would love to see this stuff, but I just don't want to see this become a new trend, because half of it I feel is corporate and capitalistic greed. Because yes, a vast majority of films are made to make money, and we as fans will eat it up. And it becomes problematic because it's like microtransactions then, where, well, here's the
I was
film.
literally about to say that.
Here's the film, but here's a new cut of it. We're going to have you either subscribe to HBO or buy it here or go to the theaters and pay for it again for a new cut of it. Or it's like DLC to a movie.
Exactly.
And like other things too, like reboots and remakes, that's been forever. But it was always a fan's apprehension to Spider-Man until we finally got what we have, you know. But it's, and even Fantastic Four, like they're going to do another one, but it's like, just please get it right. Like, stop doing things for cash grabs. And I see so many times, and this is my biggest complaint for directors. The biggest example I have is the director for Independence Day. He also did Godzilla in '98, for those that don't know. He didn't care about that franchise and didn't even study or do anything for fan appreciation and respect to Toho's creation.
And it showed.
And it did show. As a monster movie, it's fine. As a Godzilla movie, it's trash. But that we could do that review
I like
another
the soundtrack.
day. Great. Jimmy Page, Puff Daddy,
sure.
Come on.
Yes, I listen to that song all the time.
Oh, copyright strike. I'm sorry. I was right on with that one.
Oh no. But I completely agree with that take. I think it's something that we should, as fans, especially be not just wary of, but consciously aware of the fact that we are walking right into that trap.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we already deal with it with.
Oh no, you're cutting out. You're frozen. They cut you off.
With all that fun stuff.
They cut you off.
What
You're
happened
back.
there?
I don't know, but you're back. They cut you off. Snyder said no.
So anyway, I was saying we've been dealing with that crap with video games for years, and it sucks there. It has its boons sometimes, you know, because we get like these full-featured games, like the Assassin's Creed games.
Mm-hmm.
The DLC has historically been okay for. You get a full, well-rounded experience. Then they give you some other crap that may not necessarily fit in the main narrative, but is a fun, weird offshoot. Origins is my specific example of where I think they actually did that correctly. But I don't want to see that become a trend in films. Do I want to see them restore the Snyder Cut in this narrow case? I kind of do, because I feel like the DCEU as a whole had a lot of promise coming out of this movie. And so if we could get deliveries on those promises, I feel like it would be a good thing. But I don't like the idea of it setting a precedent, like you mentioned, to start just revising everything all the time.
And that's how trends work. I've seen it before with so many things, and I think we're on the cusp of something that's very dangerous to set this precedence for. And I don't want to say that we told you so here, but I also don't want to be 2-3 years from now doing this podcast saying, told you guys so. Like,
basically.
I know we're not the only ones with this perspective. This isn't my original thoughts. This is just a perspective I have on it.
But I'd rather be wrong about it, ultimately.
Right. Lana says, I feel like if they had intentions for a universe, in quotes, it was needed, but it's not going to happen, so it wasn't quote, needed. It wasn't bad, but served no purpose other than for Snyder to do what he intended, for people to shit all over the original and praise this is ridiculous. I agree. Neither is all that bad, and neither is incredibly better than the other. Correct. They have their own unique story, and like I said, I appreciate the Whedon one more just because that's my type of film, and because I've been trained for it too. Again, like the MCU, that's the beats. It's if you look at the DCEU again, I'm saying I'm being redundant here, but it fits what they established more. The Snyder Cut, that is. Redbeard says, I actually like different perspectives on films. There are like 15 cuts of Blade Runner. I think there are like 4 different cuts. There was a Blu-ray set that I almost bought, but I ended up getting the director's cut, I think. I can't remember. Fans have gotten entitled since says Lana. No one owes you a cut of anything. Did you know Discord was bought by EA? Did they actually complete that purchase? Did EA?
Not that I've seen, no.
And it wasn't EA. Who was buying Discord? It was Microsoft, right?
Microsoft, yeah.
Which
it is. It was Microsoft. Microsoft is on the verge of putting an offer in, but no, that's not finalized either.
There aren't 50 different versions of Episode 4. What's Episode 4?
What's an IV?
If we don't drink enough fluids, we'll have an IV. Drink your water, kids.
That's a.
See, there you go. I have my glass. I've been blabbing this whole time, so I haven't drank anything.
Gotta stay hydrated, kids.
So the last thing that I want to close on, unless we have anything else that we want to talk about with the Snyder Cut and then the DCEU. I guess before we close with the thing, well, no, we'll close with that. Let me focus. See, notes, I need notes. Let me talk about one last thing, and then we'll close with what my parting thoughts are. The epilogue of the film featured the Joker. Spoiler.
Yeah.
What does he say? We are a society, or some, like, I don't know, he mutters some stuff in there. Like, all working together, their suits are different, and like, what is going on? So many cliffhangers in this movie, and without direction, it's confusing.
I mean, that was a callback that was specifically referenced earlier in the film when Batfleck was talking to Wonder Woman, and he said the thing about, no, I had this dream, and he was right there.
Was the nightmare sequence?
Flash said, yeah, which was what was it? That was in Dawn of Justice originally, not the Whedon cut.
Correct. So it's a continuation of the nightmare sequence.
Yeah, and so it was a callback to that, and then this was another one of those things that is a promise that we're not going to see the delivery on, and that sucks. I do want to say that was a much better Joker out of Leto than anything we got in Suicide Squad, though. I would watch that Joker.
Here's the thing.
Personally.
This is why I'm going to be hypocritical. I want to see what was on the cutting room floor of Joker and Suicide Squad, because I'm curious. the curiosity. See, that's what killed the cat. Okay? Curiosity kills kitties. Don't be a kitty. Don't be curious. But in all honesty, like,
these.
Go ahead.
I was going to say the extended cut of Suicide Squad does have more Joker sequences, and
is there an extended cut?
They're a little better. Yeah.
I have to check my collection now.
Yeah, apparently I accidentally watched that one and not the original.
No, I don't.
It featured more Batman too.
Yeah, because he was in like 2 scenes then, the car chase, and then something else. And I know what Star Wars is, Redbeard. Jesus. Come on. Really?
But yeah, so
and by the way, I don't like Jared Leto as a Joker. I think he's atrocious.
I don't either. Don't get me wrong. I don't actively want to see them continue that path. But if they're going to continue with Leto as the Joker, if they continue the basis that they've showed us from that nightmare sequence, it would at least be tolerable versus the garbage Joker we got in Suicide Squad. I'm just saying comparatively, it was an improvement, not that I want more of it actively. You know what I mean?
And Harley, I'll be your rebound, okay? You don't need him. Trust me. I could be crazy too.
I mean, she's dead.
Wait, what?
That was specifically addressed in the nightmare sequence. Batman specifically says, when I was holding Harley Quinn in my arms and she took her last breath.
That's right.
Now, that said, going back to Birds of Prey, she wasn't dead and she was away from the Joker. So
that's what I'm more referencing. Let's
yeah.
How you doing, huh? Dead in quotes. Yeah, no one's ever actually dead. They always come back. Look at.
Well, I'm pretty sure Black Mask is dead.
Yeah. So that leads me to the final thought here. What
do you got?
Do we want for the future? Since we're talking on the future sequence, or a nightmare sequence, if you will, which is the future, what do we want? Like, if we could program anything in... Oh, you know what? Here, check this out. We completely overlooked something, and I'm mad about this. Cyborg. They completely made his story significantly more impactful, as well as confusing on why he wore a hoodie sometimes and didn't. Because the re-edits.
Yeah.
Because, like,
I will say
are you ashamed or are you not ashamed? Because now you have confliction with your own narrative here.
I don't know, man. Alter egos are a thing. That's all I got for that one.
No.
You hide in a hoodie, they
couldn't fix everything. They couldn't fix everything.
That's totally fair. They could not. I will say that was a massive improvement, though.
Yeah.
Cyborg in the Whedon cut was... You could have cut him.
Yeah, he wasn't very important.
Snyder cut, he was very, very important. Mm-hmm. Much better in the Snyder cut.
They did him better.
Yes. Characters have come back from worse.
That's true. And yeah, Harley prefers the ladies. That's fine. I can hang out.
He's cool. Just a little exploded. He's still good.
So for the future, if we could write anything, what would we introduce? Where would we go next? I gotta
be honest, I don't know.
Batman Beyond.
Well, I mean, sure, but I thought we were specifically speaking on what's on the table, and I don't think Batman Beyond is. But heck yeah, I'd watch Batman Beyond. Are you kidding me?
I mean, that if I could have anything, I don't know if as far as like continuity or timeline, Batman Beyond, where I'd be exploring next. I just think it'd be fun. I would love more stories. I don't know where I would go. I don't know if I would introduce, Mr. Freeze, Riddler. Like, it just doesn't make sense in this universe they've established for a lot of these characters now. Because, like, how do you go from Doomsday to Steppenwolf to, like, all of these villains who are very...
Dosage and Darkseid.
Right, who are very apocalyptic type characters into world scenario, like, push of a button, it's over, to... the Riddler. Or
I have a freezy gun.
Right. Like, I know that sounds cheesy, and yes, you can make those characters pretty menacing, but... Or even the Penguin, like... Or, like, Two-Face, like, you can't introduce that now into this world they crafted. You can, but, like, it wouldn't have the same impact.
I'll say two characters on that list that I could... Based on some things I have seen, I think they could absolutely introduce in this universe without it being too jarring, would be Two-Face and the Penguin. Because you've already got, regular old crime is a big old deal. So shoehorning in old DA Harvey Dent wouldn't be that crazy.
Yeah, but you just do a crime drama then after what they've already established? It just doesn't
no. But what I'm saying is,
thematic.
Like, the soup exists. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you could get him in there, and I feel like it could work. I don't think you could center a whole movie around him necessarily. I feel like he'd be less like he was in Dark Knight, where he became like a focal point less than halfway through the movie about his villain shift. I mean,
yeah,
and more like just have him be the ally for the most of the movie, and then have the horrible thing go wrong at the end. Have it be like a post credits. You could do that. It would make sense. I don't think it would hurt the character, and it would absolutely tease something coming forward. The other one I think would be the Penguin, and I based that off of the representation of him and Riddler in Gotham. The show was not good, but they gave us a very real, very grounded, very menacing.
But that's the thing, it's too grounded. Like, even the Joker, they're just so dismissive. He's just a nut job. Like, he's crazy. Like, he's like, Like, okay, dude, wow. This guy, he's gonna, okay. We got this into world event over here. You go get this guy in the white coat. Okay, just go put him back in there. Like, come on. Like, it would be so difficult to introduce. And we got Superman screaming behind us right now. Watch this for the next 20 minutes. Jeez. But yes,
But no, so like where do we go from here? I think it really depends. I mean,
give us a Cyborg movie. Give us a Flash movie.
We're still getting the Flash movie. I want the Batfleck movie. If we get nothing else out of the Snyderverse or the Snyder Cut coming out, I want the restored Batfleck movie. I want Batfleck to have a chance to flap in the night by himself and not in the shadow of everyone else in the Justice League.
The problem is the Batman movie exists. It would be so difficult to simultaneously market that stuff.
Oh, they'll never do it. They won't do it at this point. They're too committed to Pattinson's The Batman. It's not going to happen.
And if that makes numbers, they're going to do a sequel, which delays even further the idea of Ben Affleck doing it. Where it's
and he's already there. No,
he was already out the door.
Yeah, unless Pattinson's movie bombs, which I don't wish that on him. Don't get me wrong.
It has every chance to bomb, though.
Well, yeah, but it also has several chances to do well. So
right, but that's the thing.
I'm hopeful.
Obviously, it could sway either way. That's the most obvious statement that could ever be made here. But in all reality, that's the best explanation I can have for this. It could do, I don't think Avengers well, but it could do very well, especially if they time it with the return of the world is safe again kind of scenario. Go to the movies. Maybe we won't charge you $27 for a bucket of popcorn.
Oh, they're gonna.
Yeah, I know.
That's not going anywhere.
I know. But it has potential. The obvious statement is obvious.
Yeah, of course. But like, unless it does trip on its own shoelaces, like, there's no chance for a bat.
I think it'll do decently enough to spark a sequel that will probably flop.
Yeah, they don't do great with sequels. I haven't, like I said earlier, I haven't seen 1984, but I've not heard stellar things about it.
It's fine. Like, it's fine. I don't love the armor in it that she has, but like, I get it. I like the setting because like the 80s, products of the 80s right here. So that's cool, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But besides that, like, but that's really it. Like, obviously 4 hours, we could probably have a 4-hour podcast because there's so many things probably left untouched that we're probably like, man, I wish I would have talked about that.
That's the nature of the beast.
but in all reality, the best way that you can get to returning conversations on things is subscribing to us and following us on social media and tuning in for all of our podcasts and shows that we do on the DNA channel. So make sure you're hitting that like, follow, subscribe, wherever you're at. We're on podcast platforms. We're on social media. We're on the Facebooks. There's that tweeting service thing. I forget what that's called. Like the bird does things.
I think it's the tweeter, right?
Can we say that? We're on the Instagrams. But yeah, give us those follows. It's free to follow. You know that? Like, it doesn't require anything. It's crazy. We do all this for free. Why would anyone do that? Who knows?
Generosity of soul.
Apparently. But in all reality, we appreciate everyone that listens to us live in all of our shows, including our podcasts here. Coming soon, we have 2 new debuting podcasts to add, as well as the returning Nerds of Wrestling podcast, being helmed by Cody and Trevor, and then a rotating pool of talent, whether it be Locke, myself, or whoever they find on the street to talk with them about wrestling. That could be a show in itself, them just creeping down the road. Hey, you like wrestling? Come talk to me.
What are you doing for the next hour?
Let's talk about wrestling. Fame and fortune, give us your money. But the 2 new shows also coming soon is just a personal interest that I wanted to do for a while. It'll be much like this, where we just talk about something, but it's going to be themed around a movie like this. So this is kind of a preview of things to come, which will actually be
a backdoor pilot.
It kind of is, but it'll feature other people as well, and it'll be Tuesday nights. So Tuesdays going forward, expect new podcasts in rotation. The Dosage will be in a rotation with the music and movies one. So every 3 weeks it'll be back again. So expect the Dosage to return in 3 weeks. Next week will be the RDNA, Real Dose of Nerd Acumen, REEL. It's where we keep it real. TM. That's the best I got for now. So, And I will be with iRob and possibly Herman for that pilot. And we want to start with a theme. Since we do video games on Dose of Nerd Acumen, that's primarily what we want to focus on. We want to do video game films for our reviews, for at least starting. So the first one is in honor of the upcoming Mortal Kombat. We're going to talk about Mortal Kombat from, 1995?
I don't think so.
While he looks that up. Because Annihilation was 97, I think. And then Mortal Kombat was 95, I want to say.
Well, Annihilation was
97.
97, yes.
Yep. And the original was 95, I think.
And Google wants to screw me because the new one is just called Mortal Kombat.
Yes, the remake of the...
Just like the original one.
Yeah.
Yep, 95.
There you go. Weird historian.
August 18th, 1995.
So, Super Mario Brothers, yes, Redbeard. Would you like to be a guest on that one? But in all reality, yes, we're gonna try to watch as many video game movies, the good, the bad, and the just ugly, and talk about them. Because recently I watched Mortal Kombat Annihilation again. I saw it when it came out, and I hadn't watched it in a long, long time. And oh my god, not good. So I'm intrigued to watch the original Mortal Kombat before watching the new one, and then have us talk about it next week, Tuesday. So be on the lookout for that. Go ahead.
Since I won't be here for that one, I just want to say I loved Christopher Lambert as Raiden. I know it was terrible, but I loved it.
Oh, it was so bad. So bad.
Total guilty pleasure. 100%. I freely admit it.
Get over here. Yeah, there's so many one-liners and like... Redbeard says he could talk about stuff. I don't believe you.
It's crazy.
He always made me late coming back from break when I worked with him in the same building briefly.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
Just a little personal note there. We'd stop literally in the middle of the walkway, so people had to awkwardly go around us. They'd probably talk like a foot from each other, so it just looked even more awkward. And then we'd just talk for like a half hour, and I'd supposed to bend back to my desk like 25 minutes before that. I was like, oops.
Dang, nerds.
I had to go. Yeah, you made me late. You did all the time too, and like both of us could have been like, we got to go, but like it was just one of those things. It's like trying to say goodbye to Locke. You can't. Like, just go, Locke, but no.
Once you get into a conversation with me, you live here now.
It's why our closing segment of the show has now gone on 20 minutes, and you people are still here listening.
That's true.
2 weeks from now, the music, so mRNA, music review, Nerd Acumen. These are working titles. Work with me. Trying to keep thematic of DNA and RNA and mRNA. And you get it? Like ATGC, all the good culture. Adenine, thymine, cytidine, or guanine. I don't know. Is that what they're called?
Who themes things? That's crazy talk.
DNA. And I don't think like really anyone picked up on that either, the ATGC thing. Like I felt that was so incredibly clever.
And we never explained it.
And yes, NOW episodes last 150 minutes. We got to talk about that too. We got to tone down the length of our content. Ain't nobody got time for this. Unless you have a long commute and you're enjoying it, let us know in the comments below. But yes, 2 weeks from now, I have a friend that I grew up with, which will also be helping me with this one. As mentioned, iRob and Herman will be helping me out when they can with the music one. And I don't know if it'll be on a consistent thing. They present an interest. We really haven't worked out the details yet. It's just kind of a conceptual idea, and we just want to talk movies because if you don't know anything about me, the first thing that you learn is that I'm passionate about film. So, and then video games. It's weird in that order, right? You'd think it'd be the other way, but... and then wrestling. But the music one, I threw it out to Justin mostly to be like, what's it going to take to get you to do a podcast with me? He loves music, and I'm like, this means I got to let him pick the album first. So I'm like, oh, God. Now, I like a lot of the music he listens to. I like a lot of the music he listens to, just like he likes some of the music I listen to. But there's also stuff that he likes, and same with what I like, we just can't stand. Fortunately, this band that he decided to pick was a new album coming out literally a few days prior to the podcast, so we'll have a weekend to listen to the album and give our feedback. It's the brand new album by the band The Offspring. So you might have heard of them.
That's a callback. Holy crap.
You might have some, memories, depending on how old you are. But they've gone in and out of relevance, a few times over the years in the music world. And to me, I was kind of surprised that they're still making music. And from my understanding, It has been a hot minute since they released an album. So this will be interesting to listen to and give, our thoughts and feedback on. And I'm already predicting now, I bet you he'll speak higher on it than I do. But then again, I could be wrong. Because of that, he might have higher expectations or standards that don't get met. So 2 weeks from now, tune in for that. Next week, Tuesday, tune in for Mortal Kombat. That soundtrack, though. KMFDM or MDFMK, because remember they flipped their name back and forth a couple times throughout their career. That techno, 90s, mid-90s techno. Man, 10-year-old me was clubs, man, yeah. Because in your mind, you're I bet you the girls go crazy when they start listing off the character names and the bridge of the song. Sonya, Scorpion. And I bet you I'll press the girls knowing all the character names. Liu Kang, Johnny Cage. Mortal Kombat. That song got me hyped though. It really did.
I would give so much to have seen you do that in a club.
I mean, at 10 years old, I was not in a club, and you're still not going to find me in one. But in my mind, that's where I went. And I'd have a friend, rest in peace, he's gone now, sadly. But this was around the time I started having sleepovers and stuff, and your friends would stay the night, because I didn't get to do that, right away, because getting real with y'all, I was a bedwetter for, first couple grades of elementary school. So I couldn't have people stay over because I didn't want that embarrassment, but I've put that out to the internet now, so you're welcome. But I'm not ashamed in my game. But anyways, we would play a game, and we would be radio DJs because I had a boombox. So, and CDs.
As you did.
I had CDs, man. CDs.
Ooh.
So
I bet you were the most popular kid.
I was not. I was far from it. Shocking, I know, right? You can find me into club named Mortal Kombat character, says Lana. They were terrible as MDFMK. See, Redbeard knows. He knows what's up. Anyways, we would pretend we were radio DJs and we would play that. This was around the time Coolio, Gangsta's Paradise. What was it from? God, what movie was that? I can't remember now. You guys know it though.
Something Minds.
Dangerous Minds. Thank you.
That's what it was.
Yes, thank you. Locking at the hosting clip was bad. Hey, no shame on game. We all have things we deal with in our life, okay? I'm out here keeping it 100, okay? Isn't that what the kids say? Or does that not fit?
Please never do that again.
That's not what the kids do? Okay. But hey, whatever. I'm a grown man. I can say what I want.
That is absolutely true, and no one can take it away from you.
See, this is what how Facebook is no kids on their platform? Twitch should be no adults. Because y'all just out here embarrassing yourself. These old dudes out here trying to keep it 100 on a podcast.
Hashtag truth facts.
Yeah, the viewer count is just taking a massive dive. Thanks. Whatever. Don't care. Cliff May, thank you. Thank you for that. That's how we do.
Good man.
Blake is here. What's up, Blake? Just in time.
What's going on, man? Indeed.
But that's all I have as far as upcoming podcast stuff. So expect that on Tuesday nights. The plan is Sunday nights for the return of the NOW. Not this Sunday because that's WrestleMania. From my understanding, we're trying to aim for Monday next week for that, just for the one-off. But Sundays is the goal in mind for that show for Trevor and Cody and Trevor. Again, Tuesdays in rotation, we get the podcasts. Of course, every Saturday we got Lock doing the Lock Box Are you still dubbing it that, or what do we? It's just your
I haven't been. I might start again though.
Okay. If you just want to see him.
Well, I that's true. Hang out with all this.
Yeah.
I'm here on Saturdays. You know where to find me.
Saturdays. You can find him in the club. Sonia. Dun, 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 dun. Fight.
Okay.
Wow. This is just awful. This might be the worst. The sexiness.
Who let us on the internet?
I don't know. Cody needs axes with his new Discord. No, denied. No axes for you. No steel for you. And then for the next 4 what is it? 4 Wednesdays. There's 4 of you guys. The raffle winners from our last raffle, which we're already almost filled up. Another one. You guys are crazy. We're going to be doing general manager shows. So tomorrow, Rated takes over NAW. He submitted a card to me almost at the last minute. He almost lost his opportunity. So if you guys are the guest GMs, turn it in 24 hours before the show. So whoever it is next week, Wednesday, turning in before this show next week, Tuesday. Or you snooze, you lose. Locke gets to book it. So,
Dun dun dun.
and then Thursdays, regularly scheduled programming, NAW. And then if you guys don't know, we have those house shows that are a thing right now. Lately, it's been a lot of the redemptions you guys are doing. And speaking of, scope out the redemptions. I made some adjustments on the Nerd Credit and the Strands. It's a lot more affordable to do those things now. And I've added more allowances for people redeeming. So if you want title shots and various things, it's affordable now. And then make sure you hit that host because you get bonus. I upped the values of things too, you guys. We're just giving you guys more. So
Just making it rain.
that's what we do. So, but again, check those out. YouTube.com/Dose of Nerd Acumen. Check out all our archives, not just NAW. All of our archives. Almost over 800, almost 900 episodes of things over the last 4 years. It's a lot of
So
stuff.
many.
Like, I don't even know where to begin. So many. We've covered a lot of things. We've done a lot of things. So, like, if you're ever bored, go on there, hit that like button, and comment. Let us know you scoped out a video and what you thought. Even if it sucks, let us know. Because we'll put it.
Then we know never to do that again.
Yeah, we'll mark it as a private video, and then no one else has to see that misery. And if you're doing that right now in this video as you're watching it back in our archives, we understand. Because this ending has gone on longer than most of our endings, even in the early awkward endings of the show. It's true.
Is this just the Snyder cut of podcasts now?
I'd have to go in slow motion, but yes, it would be the equal. But that's all, folks. Tune in. You know where to find us. Locke, any parting thoughts?
Do I have any starting thoughts at this point, honestly? No. Like he said, throw us them likes and follows and hang out and tell us if we're awesome or if we're not awesome so we can be awesome. And
You got bumped on the screen.
I don't like that at all. Go ahead and just kick.
Get out of here. We're still on air.
Oh, well, there he goes.
What a jerk.
We'll get to you in a minute.
What a jerk.
I lost my train of thought. The moral of the story is we love you, and we want to hear from you, whether you love us in return or not.
He tried to leave, he said.
Gave him the boot.
Get out of here, Cody. We don't want you. This is our time. Give us our 5 minutes, damn it. That's all we ask.
All 35 of them.
Yeah, this has gone on too long. Check us out. Podcast platforms. Make sure you follow us on your favorite one, whether it be Spotify, Apple, Google, or any of those other ones that exist. Too many to count. Stitcher, something.
Anchor.
That's the main
That's
hub.
the one that lists all of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, find us on Anchor. Anchor.fm/Dose of Nerd Acumen, I think. I could be wrong.
And that'll tell you everywhere else we are.
So. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 113 of the Dosage Podcast, brought to you by Locksteady and Gravity Well. Good night, everybody, and stay...
Nerdy?
Yes.